Okay, good afternoon. Once again, it's the same, Ed Rothstein, and it is 1300 hours, our second workshop, and expectation that it should be our last workshop with the intent of adopting the FY22 operational budget on Tuesday afternoon. So, as always, we train to task and not to time, so let's see how far we can get through this, and with the intent of getting to a conclusion. Let me hand it over to Ted and catch us up to where we were from Tuesday to today, and then what you believe the conversation, where it should lead us at this point.
Okay. It's the first time back in here with all these chairs again. You know, when we started pushing people out of the building for COVID, I continued coming in. I never stopped, but I got used to a pretty empty building. And it felt uncomfortable when people started coming back. Now I feel like these chairs are ganging up on me. I'm not having people in them.
So we could say, what chairs?
Okay. Then I guess I'll have to put in for some time off. Okay, so you have a little package. They keep getting smaller and smaller. And I'd say for today, even more than an expectation, we pretty much need to walk out of here with decisions made in order to be prepared for you on Tuesday. So there are a couple things that have changed again since we last talked. And you'll see under item 1, talk about 2 school construction transfers. Excuse me 1 second. You talked to her about this. She and I talked. Okay, sorry. It might be another thing you have to take care of that I didn't get on here.
Okay.
So there's 2 transfers. Now this is because the cost of the Winfield Elementary School HVAC is more than we expected. And this is, I don't know how related this is, but this is something that's going to be coming up more. You know, we're seeing a spike in construction materials. So there's other estimates that we've made that almost certainly are going to be off now, but we'll deal with that as they come up. But I just want to point out, in doing this is money that has already been identified for school construction projects, will be used for a school construction project no matter what. This is just matching up some appropriation that will not be needed where it is to a place where it will be needed. So this has no other changes to anything that you've done. Okay, then the second thing we need to do is come back to the body worn camera discussion. We had talked about that at some length last time and just have not reached a conclusion yet on where you want to go.
Well, on those first 2 things, do we have to approve the transfer of funds?
Well, that will be in the budget. So when you adopt the budget,
when we adopt the budget, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they pushed back east from 22 to 23, huh? East Middle School replacement.
Okay, so that's, catch, remember that the legislator created this new parallel system of school construction funding using the Maryland Stadium Authority. Of course, legislation had to pass, and then it was unclear exactly how this was all going to be implemented. Some of that is still being worked out. I think this is just recognition that the timing that we had in place wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
So is this going to slow the construction of East Middle School down by a year? I mean, can they start without this funding in place? I mean, this isn't the only funding. It's only $4 million.
They have our funding in there. They could at least get a portion of it, started.
Yes, there is some of the funding is in place. So this doesn't mean they can't do anything.
Right. So they could do some stuff until this other $12 million comes.
Right.
So
Yes, I probably said that badly. This is recognizing that the state process is still unclear.
Right.
And we weren't going to end up with the money in 22.
okay.
They're working on it presently.
Right. I would figure that they would be. I mean, site preparation, everything else takes a while. And I can't remember the total cost of the building off the top of my head anymore, but it's a lot more than this $12 million.
60 million.
Yeah, so, right. So there's a lot of other stuff that could be done before this $12 million comes into play. Right, okay. Because I hate to see things delayed. Like, well, the state's attorney's building just jumps up to mine. You know, let's move forward in these buildings. Let's get them going. It has nothing to do with the budget thing. It's on my mind. That's all. Okay.
Because the price is going up.
Yeah, well, it certainly aren't going
Yeah.
down, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So is there action at this point that we need to take on either one of these?
No, those are changes to the budget that you will be adopting on Tuesday. So when you adopt the budget, you're adopting these changes.
Okay. So I guess then the question is there any issue with either one of these? As
Yeah.
discussed, okay. Okay.
Down to body cameras.
Body cameras,
You know, as you left things, there was what is in the proposed budget, which had 2 positions in for the state's attorney, and everything else happening in fiscal year 25, and only funded the body worn cameras, not the car mounted cameras.
Right.
Then the sheriff made a proposal to move that all forward. You talked about a lot of the implications of that. I talked a lot about the implications of that. And then there was some discussion of, is there something in between a phasing rather than doing just one or the other? And that's where we left things.
So what was the answer about the phasing of the sheriff's department?
They weren't in favor of.
Okay, he did send all of you an email.
We got an email.
right.
I'm reading it now. It
And-
came this morning.
Okay, I haven't looked at my phone.
And he-
When I
and he
come in
does-
session, I don't look at my phone until I get done.
Well, I didn't either, but I looked at it over lunch.
Well, I was
Well,
busy at lunch.
I think the quick summary
But
is,
I'm glad you read it. Okay,
the quick summary of the email is he is not in favor of a phasing.
okay,
Of piecemealing it in, is what
Okay.
he's saying.
all right.
And
Thanks.
state's attorney is in agreement with
And
that.
I'll read that right after the session. trust me.
Well,
I can let you read it if you can see it.
That's okay.
I didn't print it out, but I've got it on my phone.
I
But,
printed it out if you want to see it.
No, that's fine.
I mean, one of the things I think he identified in this was the fact, and I had a conversation with the state's attorney as well, is that even with this money in place, there's no realistic way in which they're going to be able to hire these people. So I think it's going to be a phased-in approach anyway. But we still have to identify the money in there, whether
Right.
that happens or not. I mean,
Right.
that's the key here.
Yes,
Uh,
what you're looking at is are appropriations available?
Right.
Which is a different idea than
Right.
how soon do people get hired?
Yeah.
Correct.
I think he stated what, January 22, before
Is
they
when-
can even hire anyone.
It's his expectations.
Yeah.
But again, it's not about that. It's
Yeah.
exactly what, Jed, you shared, and that is, are we prepared to allocate the funds to move this program from 25 to 22? And that's about 400,000. I don't have that in front of me.
$638,000.
638,000.
$480. Thanks.
You're welcome.
$638,480 to the left.
Which pushes everything in 25, 26, and 27 in almost $500,000
In favor.
in negative.
Well, no, in plus, where we're not spending.
No,
It's just being moved, right?
we will be
Come on.
spending it.
This is
It'll
expenses.
make the bottom line at least $500,000 added to the expense.
Yes, there's several things happening here.
Yeah,
One, you're going to spend 600 and some $1,000s a year more than you would have in 22, 23, and
Okay.
24.
Yeah.
right.
We also will be moving up some one-time expenditures that would have happened in 25 and will now happen in 22. And harder to quantify, but for these positions that we're saying would have remained empty, you're also losing whatever savings there would have been from having
The
budget
position's
that
empty.
wasn't being used.
And making this happen, contingent on receipt of the body cameras from the grant program is another kind of twist into this.
Yes, and that does get a little complicated because you have to make this decision before we know
Correct.
are we going to get that or not. So if you're going to leave it where it is, there's the possibility that we get the grant, but we are not prepared to make use of the grant. If you move all this forward, there's the possibility that we get the grant and then everything goes together, or that you moved everything forward and we don't get the grant and now we've got another mismatch. And that's why I asked last time, if we don't get the grant, are we saying we're not moving ahead with it? And your response was yes. I'm not sure, if everybody was there or
Yeah, I
not.
mean, I think that was the sheriff's, ask as well. If we do not get the grant, we do not move forward until the mandated 2025 requirement.
And if that happened, what we would have appropriation that you would then be saying to the sheriff and the state's attorney, don't use this money. And in fact, we probably would look to come to you to transfer the money out of those budgets.
Right.
So that it's not in play.
Also, remember that when we voted for this grant, we said that if it wasn't going to work out, we were not going to accept the grant if we didn't have all the other funding and so forth in place.
But we do have a method to put it in place.
And what is that?
To be bigger in the hole.
It's not a method.
No, it's a method. Yeah, it is. It's a method. Are we willing to accept the risk
Exactly.
in that?
If you
method?
like the credit card method, it's a method.
Well, that's right.
I mean, that's what it comes
Right.
down to. Yeah.
And that's absolutely right. And are we willing to accept the risk associated with putting that $500,000 in addition from FY25 forward in debt? I mean, that is the method. And a value added is getting the body worn cameras in place, ahead of the state directive of FY25. And I think it is.
Well, there is another way to do it without going into more debt. Not if you're going to like this idea, though.
Float it.
No, take some of the funding that we're given for the sheriff's raises, that take the $638,480 and make it ongoing, take it out of there and put it in here.
You're
Because
right,
if-
we don't like that.
I know you wouldn't like it, but if it's a requirement and if it's that necessary, I mean, the sheriff's department, instead of giving almost a 15% raise?
14%.
And I haven't figured out what it would be, but it would still be a pretty significant raise. And they could have the body cameras at the same time. But that way, we're not tapping into more ongoing funds because ongoing funds are already there.
It's apples, oranges, and bananas. One is the ability to recruit. train,
Yeah, I
retain.
understand. I'm just
And
throwing it
the
out
other
there.
is-
It's
No, I
another way to do it
understand.
because I'm not willing to commit more on ongoing funds when the picture is as bleak as it is in the out years. And this is a way to make that happen, if you really wanted it to happen.
I want the cake. I want to eat it.
You want it all?
You want ice
I
cream
mean,
on top?
Yeah, I don't
I
want
understand.
to, I don't want to change the compensation formulas because that is their ability to retain a workforce.
And I do understand that.
It's not-
Which means to me, we don't do this right now. We wait
No.
till 25.
So, you done with that debate?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Jump in, Steve. That's why you're in the middle of us.
Yeah. So if you do this the way that it's on this paper right here, we don't see any negative reflection on the bottom line until FY25. Is that the way I'm reading this correctly?
Yes, you want to look at the top row.
Right.
That's how it would change your
Okay.
bottom line in each year.
Okay. Okay.
So as you can see, the first year, there's some one-time expenses associated with it. So it's
Right.
not 600 and an ongoing for those 3
Right,
years.
right.
It
Right.
drops
It goes-
down to the 430,000.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Knowing full well that I don't think we're going to spend that amount, based on the fact that in the conversation that I had with Brian, the conversation I had with the state's attorney, and about the fact that he even says realistically, there's absolutely no way that they're going to be able to hire all these people next year. in
You will
fiscal year
fully spend
22.
it though in 23 and 24.
Right, well,
Right.
maybe, yeah. Right. I mean, I think it's going to take some time to put these people in place. You can't just hire them and say, okay, you're now the person that looks at the film. Good luck. See ya.
Yeah.
It's like 3 or 4 months worth of training.
That's what I said Tuesday. I absolutely agree. But in still doing that with what Ted has shared is we're still willfully allocating that money to be executed.
Right. It's got to be there. It's
So-
just, I don't think we're going to use it.
So my again,
All of it.
my recommendation is that we put the money necessary to provide the body cameras and the personnel to the sheriff's department for starting in FY 22 budget.
Is that a
Operational
recommendation or a motion?
That's a motion.
So
I'll
you're
second it.
saying just the sheriff's department, because how about the state's attorney's department? They need money as well.
Third.
They need money on their end, or this doesn't make any difference. Because if they don't have the money
Yeah.
to hire the people they need, those cases are going to get thrown out, and they have it in other counties. They've been thrown out because they don't have people in the state's attorney's office to examine the digital evidence before trial.
This is not pulling people from the state's attorney's office.
No,
It's
they
adding
need
people.
additional people.
It's adding people.
But that's in the
Right.
numbers we're talking
Right.
about.
Right. So
So, yeah, but
Okay.
that's not what you said in your motion.
I apologize.
And also,
So the,
did you intend on buying the cameras? Because the way you said it sounded like
Yeah.
regardless
No.
of what we're doing. you
no, it's
want
not regardless. It is contingent on the
Award.
the grant to purchase those cameras, to allocate the money necessary for both the sheriff's department and state's attorney's office for analysts and equipment starting in the FY 22 operational budget. And that is my motion.
Well, I seconded. Dick seconded too. We both seconded.
Okay,
I'm very concerned about the out years, but at this point, based on the climate of the way in which things are, I don't think we have a choice in the matter. I wish this would have been a little bit more in our faces when we
Yeah,
were really
same
talking
here.
about this. I'm a little bit discouraged by that because it seems like it's after the fact now. And that troubles me a little bit, but this, keeping in mind that this is an ever-changing issue anyway. I mean, it is. It changes almost every day.
you talking about
It
the
is.
environment.
Okay.
The
And-
environment.
and I
And,
apologize.
you know,
Go ahead.
it is after the fact, and I think it was done purposely after the fact. He took it off the table, get the raises. They got the raises in here, and now let's come in the back door and put this back on the table and try to get it. I don't like the way it's been done, and besides the fact, as I've mentioned once or twice before, we don't have the money to implement this. But if I've
I
said what
understand.
I've said, and you've heard me, and I'm not going to keep beating the same drum.
I just want to share that I do not believe it was through the back door. And I do not believe that was the intentions. I do believe that more towards the environment has continuously been changing and our community is talking more and more, but we are in a volatile, that VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous environment. And this will lessen the complexity and provide resources for our sheriff for a safer and more secure community. And I don't think it was backdoor. This is tough. I don't like the timing, but I don't think it was done with any sort of malintent.
I do want to go back to the one deputy I talked to and said they would love to have the cameras. We're doing it right. If I go into court, it's evidence that I've done my job the way I should do it. Without it, it's a 50-50 chance, my word against theirs. And I go back to the people with the boots on the ground saying, we need this. And that's why I'm for it here at Point. And I agree, we don't have the money, we don't have other things going this way, but I don't think we have a choice at this time. It's, a lot of things are happening in the world and they're changing fast. We either keep up or we fall behind.
There's one more piece to this, and that's the money for the modifications to the old North Carroll High School
Mhm.
in connection with this program.
Is that the IT closet, the 125,000?
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's renovation of the space. That IT closet's been done, but what
Okay.
I'm saying is
sorry.
that that's part of that 650.
So that
So
was
that's
part of
it, you
that-
said, Dan?
It's in these numbers.
Yeah.
It just
Okay.
wasn't in
Yeah.
what you said.
Okay.
I just
Well,
want to make sure.
I
everybody knew.
apologize. I said, what I thought I said was personnel and equipment
Yep.
associated. So,
Okay, and, in shorthand, if you just want to think in terms of implementing what we put in front of you,
mhm.
we're good.
Okay,
I mean, I'm very troubled with 25 and beyond.
Yeah.
But, we'll cross that bridge,
Tuesday.
in about 8 months.
So we won't,
Well,
we
we're
won't
gonna-
cross the bridge. We're gonna leave it to the next board to cross.
Okay,
the bridge.
on the motion,
But, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, on the motion, which was also seconded, dealing with the body cams, is there further discussion on that? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
You said aye?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 4-1, got it. Next,
Then there's one last thing that's not on here. I neglected to get it on to the agenda. But you had made the changes in compensation for the Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and Board of License Commissioners. We found one little detail that we had missed. The compensation for the alternate on the Board of License Commissioners, in a state law, you have the authority to set the amount, but there's actually a minimum in state law of $100. So you voted to move it from $50 to $80. We need to make it $50 to $100, or else somebody has to go to jail.
That's not me.
Where?
Wait a minute.
Hold on a second. I was the one who suggested to start this in the first place. You need a motion from us to,
Yes.
I make the motion that the alternate be moved up to $100.
Second, I don't want to go to jail.
okay, any discussion on that? Appreciate the attention to detail, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Nothing gets past 10.
What else?
That's everything we have to put in front of you. After this, it's only if there's something more you want to talk about, which I very strongly discourage.
As do I.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the work session? Roberta, do you have anything?
About 3 pages.
You have about 3 pages. Okay, hearing none, we will come back on Tuesday for the adoption of the FY22 operational budget. I need a motion to adjourn for the day.
So moved.
I need a second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
And I'll go with I this time.
Okay.